Hello dear students, welcome back to Sajjan Biology classes. In today's session we are going to discuss about a kingdom fungi. So let us get into the concept then. So fungi which exhibits these are the characteristics. Fungi is a chlorophyllous anta karitidhivi. A, it represents that absence of a chlorophyll. So they are achlorophyllous and with heterotrophic nutritions. Nothing but they are a saprophytic or parasitic mode of nutrition exhibits. Andre organisms dead and decay matter mele depend agidre anta organisms galige nave enanta karitivi andre heterotrophic anta karitivi. Hetero is nothing but different. So means for the nutrition purpose they are depending on other organisms. That's it. And next they exhibit the unicellular to multicellular form. ಯೂನಿಸೆಲ್ಯುಲರ್ ಅಂದರೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು ಏಕಕೋಶ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಸೆಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಹಿಡಿದು ಮಲ್ಟಿಸೆಲ್ಯುಲರ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ಲೂ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಫಂಗೈ ಒಳಗಡೆ ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು. ಹಾಗಂದರೆ ಯೂನಿಸೆಲ್ಯುಲರ್ಗೆ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಯಾವುದು? ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ಎನ್ ಈಸ್ಟ್. ಸೊ ಮಲ್ಟಿಸೆಲ್ಯುಲರ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದು ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು? ಸೊ ಮಾರ್ಷಲಾ ಇದೆ, ಮಶ್ರೂಮ್ ಇದೆ, ಪಫ್ ಬಾಲ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಟೋಡ್ ಸ್ಟೂಲ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ದಿ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಿ ಎ ಮಲ್ಟಿಸೆಲ್ಯುಲರ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವೇರ್ some fungi are very harmful and some are very beneficial to the human beings. And where the harmful fungi, they may cause the diseases in plants and animals. But like an example we are studying here, that the wheat rust disease, so that is caused by Puccinia. This is very important example that you must remember. Bala important ಆಗಿರತಕ್ಕಂತ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ನಿಮಗೆ 1 ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ಗೆ ಥಿಯರಿಯಲ್ಲೂ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅದರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೇಟಿವ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಆಗಬಾರದು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಮಗೆ ಬೆನಿಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಫಂಗೈ ಯಾವುದಂದ್ರೆ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸಿ ದಟ್ ಪೆನ್ಸಿಲಿಯಂ ನೋಟಾಟಮ್ ಇಸ್ ಅನ್ ಆರ್ಗಾನಿಸಮ್. ನಾವು ಅದರಿಂದ ಆಂಟಿಬಯೋಟಿಕ್ ಸೋರ್ಸ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಪೆನ್ಸಿಲಿನ್. ನಾವು ಇವತ್ತು ಯಾವುದನ್ನ ಆಂಟಿಬಯೋಟಿಕ್, ಮೇಜರ್ ಆಂಟಿಬಯೋಟಿಕ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಪೆನ್ಸಿಲಿನ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಬ್ಟೈನ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ದ ಫಂಗೈ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಪೆನ್ಸಿಲಿಯಂ ನೋಟಾಟಮ್. ಓಕೆ, ಅಂಡ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ದ ಸೆಲ್ ವಾಲ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಫಂಗೈ ವಿಚ್ ಈಸ್ ಮೇಡ್ ಅಪ್ ಆಫ್ a fungal cellulose or a chitin substance anta kariteve. The chitin is nothing but a nitrogen content polysaccharide substance anta karitive now. Okay, nitrogen is polysaccharide substance. So andre in simple agi the cell wall of fungi which is made up of cellulose or chitin. Next, the very important part that we are going to discuss here, that about the structure of fungi. So when you look into the multicellular form ಒಳಗಡೆ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ನಾವು ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ, ರೈಸೋಪಸ್. ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಮನ್ಲಿ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಬ್ರೆಡ್ ಮೌಲ್ಡ್ ಅಂತಾನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ ನಾವು. ಓಕೆ, when you look into the rhizopus you can see the stalk like structure called and sporangiopore ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಅದೇ ಥರ ನಿಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಬಡ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಥರ ನೋಡಿರ್ಬೋದು, ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ಸ್ಪೊರಾಂಜಿಯಾ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ವಿಚ್ ಬಿಯರ್ಸ್ ದಿ ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಯಾವಾಗ ನಾವು ಸ್ಟಾಕನ್ನು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ, ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಯು ಲುಕ್ ಹಿಯರ್, ದ stalk which is comprising of a long slender filamentous structure, and those filamentous structure na navu enanta karitivi, we used to call as hypae anta karitivi. Please remember that is nothing but hypae. Just you look here that these hypae means the network of hypae, the all collectively called hypae, collectively called what we used to call as a mycelium anta karitivi. The network of hypae is called a mycelium. So mycelium ee tara kanutte. So adrolaga irtakkantaddu hyphae. So network of hypae is called mycelium. So namage hypae olaga nodidaga, so means the stalk. So innu adana example hege torisbodu. So which bears lot of like this filamentous structure in the stalk. Okay, and when you ಮ್ಯಾಗ್ನಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. ಎರಡು ಥರದ ಹೈಪೆಯನ್ನು ನಾನು ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಹೈಪೆ, ಐ ಟೋಲ್ಡ್ ಯು ದಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ಎ ಲಾಂಗ್ ಸ್ಲೆಂಡರ್ ಫಿಲಮೆಂಟಸ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಹೈಪೆ. ಸೊ ಹೈಪೆ ಒಳಗೆ ಎರಡು ಥರ ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು ನಾವು. ವೇರ್ ದ ಹೈಪೆ ವಿತೌಟ್ ಎ ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ವಾಲ್ and which is a multinucleated condition. So we can call this as a senocytic hypae anta karitivi. Please remember that. So which is consisting of more than one nuclei in the protoplasm. So okay, idakke multinucleated condition. So adakke now aseptate condition anta karitivi, means the absence of septae. Septae is nothing but the walls. You can see here the cross walls. So such if it bears, it is called an septate. If the septate is absent, it is called aseptate hypae anta karitivi. Okay, so nodri, I told you that ಒಂದು ವೇಳೆ ಹೈಪೆ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಸೆಪ್ಟೆ ಇರದೇ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಅದು ಅಸೆಪ್ಟೇಟ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಒಂದು ವೇಳೆ ಅದು ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ವಾಲ್ಸ್ ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಸೆಪ್ಟೇಟ್ ಹೈಪೆ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಟು ನೋ in the general characteristics of fungi. And next we are going to discuss in detail about the reproduction, how it takes place in a fungi. Let us discuss that. We are discussing about how actually the reproduction it takes place in fungi. So the reproduction it takes place by means of vegetative and by asexual reproduction and by sexual reproduction. So the vegetative means of reproduction it takes place by fission and fragmentation or by budding. And the asexual reproduction it may take place by aconidiospores or zoospores or sporangiospores. And the sexual reproduction in organisms of these fungi it may take place by oospore, ascospore and basidiospore. And what actually the meaning of all these things, that what is oospore irbodu, ascospore irbodu, basidiospore irbodu, and fragmentation irbodu, conidiospore, sporangiospore, about all these things we are going to discuss later part of in this chapter. So when we start the discussion of classes fungi, so we will come to know about all the meaning of these terms. Okay, next bala important thing now adana discuss ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ, means the sexual cycle shows the following three types. What is that? Plasmogamy, karyogamy and meiosis in zygote resulting in the formation of spores. So just I will show you here. So just you consider this is one cell and this is one cell. There are two cells. So just you consider the gametes. And if these two gametes are fused, so those two gametes are fused, but the nucleus do not fused. Try to understand, the gametes are fused means where the protoplasm of these two cells or gametes that are fused but not a gametes, and this we can call as a plasmogamy anta karitivi. I hope you understood that. So when the two gametes are fused with each other but the nucleus do not fuse, so this is called an plasmogamy. And later if these two nucleus they are fused together, so we can call them as a what? Here I have written a karyogamy. So this is nothing but what? We can call them as a karyogamy anta karitu. Means it is now in a 2n in condition. Okay, here where if these two nuclei, so ಒಂದು ವೇಳೆ nuclei ಅಂದರೆ ಡೈಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟಿಕ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನು. ಓಕೆ, ಒಂದೇ ಸೆಲ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಎರಡು ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯಸ್ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂದರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಬೈನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯೇಟ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಅಂತಾದರೂ ಕರಿಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಡೈಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟಿಕ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿಬೋದು. ಓಕೆ, ಡೈಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟಿಕ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್. And once if these two nucleus are fused, we can call them as a karyogamy anta karitevi. So it is nothing but it forms a zygote. So due to the fusion of these two nucleus, it causes the zygote formation. Once the zygote formation, so the zygote it starts to undergo meiosis and then it produces. So you can see here meiosis in zygote. So if again that meiosis it takes place, means once it becomes diploid in condition, the later it develops into an organism and start to produce spores by meiosis process, and again these spores in n in condition. And this is what about the reproduction, how actually it is takes place in the fungi. And we are going to discuss the classes of the fungi. Hello dear students, once if you can understand this chapter, so you can understand the complete part of the fungi. ಅಂದರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ಗಳನ್ನು ನೀವು ಬರೀ ಚಾರ್ಟ್ ಮೂಲಕನೇ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಬರೆದಿದ್ದೀನಿ Phycomycetes, Asco. You can see here that I have written that features a common name, habitat or mode of nutrition and mycelium. So it is nothing but here in the bracket I have written hyphae and the reproduction and examples I have written. So here that Phycomycetes is commonly called as algal fungi and habitat or the mode of nutrition. So habitat is an aquatic and mode of nutrition is that The saprophytic means the organisms which are depending on dead and decay matter. What we are seeing that hyphae network. So whether it is a septate and septate, one thing you please carefully observe that only one class, that is called Phycomycetes, which shows the aseptate hyphae, and rest are a septate and branched and septate hyphae. So this is one thing you can remember. So definitely you will get a 1 mark while writing the characteristics. So about this. And next one is that very important part is that the reproduction now actually takes place in all the different classes of fungi. So you can see that actually the Phycomycetes, it shows reproduction process through by asexually and sexually, but we are studying only that asexual reproduction mean. So which produces the zoospores. While asexual reproduction process, they produces the zoospores if they are motile, and if they are non-motile, we can call them as an aplanospores. They are nothing but non-motile. If these gametes, if they looks similar, we can call them as an isogamous. So in example of human beings, female gamete is spherical and the male gamete is different. And in such morphologically difference itondre gametes alli navu anisogamous anta karitive. Okay. And here, this is what about the asexual reproduction process. You can see that the fusion of two gametes which helps in the formation of a zygospore. It is nothing but like a zygote. An example you can see here, Rhizopus and Albigo. And next we are going to discuss about a class Ascomycetes. So generally we used to call as a common name is called an sac-like fungi or sac fungi. And so the mode of nutrition or habitat saprophytic or decomposers are the coprophilous. So I hope you know all these things except coprophilous, the organisms which lives on dung. So adik navenanta kariti coprophilous anta karitivi. So which shows the branched septate. So that mycelium is branched and it shows the septate hyphae. And where the asexual spores that are produced exogenously, which are those conidiospores or the asexual spores, they are produced exogenously. Exogenously means outside the body and on a special structure called an mycelium. And in the case of sexual reproduction, where it produces the sexual spores called ascospores endogenously within a special structure called an asci. So we used to call as a sac-like structure called an asci. So in singular formally asci anta karitivi. And all these asci that are different type of fruiting bodies it forms, and they are aggregated, which forms a structure called ascocarp anta karitivi. Example you can see here, the yeast, penicillium, aspergillus, claviceps and trochila. And Badidomycetes alli ನಾವು common name agi mushrooms athwa puff balls anta heli karitivi. And because habitat is that moist soil, and or the habitat even they are called logs mele athwa tree stump, marada dinne athwa marada baddeya mele enagtade ಬೆಳೀತದೆ. And the nutrition ಗೆ ಬಂದಾಗ obviously it is a saprophytic mode of nutrition which exhibits. And the sexual organs are completely absent, which takes place by anaplasmogamy. So as we know that the plasmogamy is nothing but gametes. Plasmo means only except nucleus, the rest of the things are fused anta. So illi nucleus bittu eradu fuse agide, idakke navu enanta karitivi plasmogamy anta karitivi. So that structure which forms a called a basidium. So and that is structure is called basidium. And after the plasmogamy, what it forms, that I told you already, we discussed in the theoretical part that sexual cycle which shows the three types and the discussed madidvi ನಾವು ಅಲ್ವಾ, plasmogamy, karyogamy and meiosis, which results into the formation of spores. So like that, where the plasmogamy which forms the basidium, and later that karyogamy and meiosis, it takes place in a basidium to produce what? Basidiospores. And all these basidiospores are produced exogenously, means outside the body of an organism, and that is a specific structure ಮೇಲೆ ಅಂದರೆ basidium ಮೇಲೆ formation ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. And all these basidia that are aggregated to form a fruiting bodies, and that structure formation ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವೇನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ? Basidiocarp ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. And last the class is remaining, that is called an Duteromycetes, and common name is called an Fungi imperfecti anta karitivi, and the habitat or the mode of nutrition is called saprophytic or parasitic in nature. And again that this mycelium which is branched and which shows the septate hyphae. and only asexual mode of reproduction it takes place only in the Duteromycetes, hence we are calling as a fungi imperfecti. Please remember that. So why we are calling as a Duteromycetes as fungi imperfecti anta namage exams kelbodu, because it expresses only asexual mode of reproduction, hence we are calling as a fungi imperfecti. So rest olaga ನಾವು ನೋಡಿದಾಗ asexual ಮತ್ತು sexual mode of reproduction ಅನ್ನು ನಾವು ನೋಡಬಹುದು, but only one Duteromycetes that exhibits the asexual reproduction process, and where that asexual reproduction structure ಒಳಗಡೆ asexual spores that are called as conidia which forms. And the best example we can see that here, that alternaria and coletrichums are the best examples. I hope you understood about all the things what we discussed today about the kingdom fungi. ನಿಮಗೇನಾದರೂ ಇದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಡೌಟ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ please drop your comments or doubts in a comment section. I will reply for your all questions. Until that, take care, and we can meet in the next session with a new concept. So always you please remember that study for knowledge, not for marks. Take care and bye.